Hey, what's going on? I'm Matt O'Leary back with another video. And before we get started, I just wanted to mention that you can follow me on social media at Matt O'Leary NY on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. And also subscribe to the podcast. Make sure to call in wherever you get your podcast. You can get it. And it's also live here on YouTube as well. And make sure to call in, leave a question. I answer it. Live shows every Monday. So awesome. Get into it. I appreciate all the support. So what I'm doing today is going over 3 wide receivers left on the market that I would target, starting with the obvious choice in my mind, Robbie Anderson, whose jersey I am currently rocking, again, for the second day in a row. Maybe I'll just start wearing it until he re-signs. But anyway, Robbie Anderson is 26 years old. He had a 68.6 Pro Football Focus rating, and ultimately is one of the more underrated deep threats in the game. I understand that his production isn't necessarily there. This past year, he just had 779 receiving yards and 5 touchdowns. But if you look at what he's done each of the last 3 years, and keep in mind that he was missing his starting quarterback for 3 of those games, it's actually impressive. Going back to 2017, he had like 950 receiving yards, and Bryce Petty was his quarterback for the last 3 weeks. If Josh McCown doesn't get hurt, pretty sure he's going over 1,000 yards. Then in 2018, Sam Darnold misses 3 games in the middle of the season. A awful version of Josh McCown comes in, and the offense is completely stagnant. Bottoms out at around, I think it was like 750 yards, somewhere in that range. This past year, like I said, what was he at, 779? Sam Darnold misses 3 games with mono, wasn't really healthy in week 1 against Buffalo. Almost finishes with 800 yards. Maybe he goes over 1,000 in 2 out of those 3 years. But I think his production's starting to look a little bit nicer if his quarterback's healthy. I don't think he's reached his fullest potential yet, and I think it would make a lot of sense to bring back. He's comfortable with Sam Darnold, and ultimately you don't want to take away your young quarterback's best targets, which is right now their best receiver is Robbie Anderson, and he's just sitting there for over a week now. Bring him back. If you have to give him $10, $11 million a year, I would do it. If you have to give him a 1-year deal, I would also do that. I'm just trying to think of ways to keep Sam Darnold progressing, and this seems like the most logical answer. So my number 1 choice would be re-sign Robbie Anderson. If the ship has sailed on Robbie Anderson, then I want brashaad Perryman, who was with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers last year. He is 26 years old, and he finished with a 72.9 Pro Football Focus grade. He had 645 receiving yards and 6 touchdowns. A lot of that production, including 4 of those touchdowns, came in the final 3 weeks of the year, where he just absolutely went off with Jameis Winston. He is very streaky. He is a former first-round pick. Didn't really pan out with the Ravens. Ended up in Tampa Bay after a quick stop in Cleveland, and really only had a few good weeks to his career, but he is someone with a lot of potential. He has bigger size than Robbie Anderson and is just as fast, if not faster. So he would be a cheaper replacement option. Let's say you have to give up $10 million a year against the cap for a guy like Robbie Anderson. Well, Perryman's maybe going to cost you $6-7 million. And some people find that more appealing. I personally don't, but if you are losing Robbie, if I'm operating under the assumption that Robbie's gone, then Perryman, it would be my next choice. I think he would be a instant fit into this Adam Gase offense and someone that I would definitely like to look at. The third and final guy on my list is DeMarcus Robinson from the Kansas City Chiefs. He's just 25 years old and had a 54.9 Pro Football Focus grade. He doesn't give you a ton of production. He had 449 receiving yards last year and 4 touchdowns, but you got to keep in mind how many weapons that Kansas City Chiefs offense has. He's way down on the pecking order. He's like their 4th wide receiver. He's behind Travis Kelce as well, who's a great receiving tight end. He has to, a lot of things have to happen for him in order to get the football. He's got to go through, he being Patrick Mahomes, has to go through a ton of reads before he's getting to him. So ultimately, I think if Robinson is brought in here and given a little bit of a bigger role, we will see those numbers go up. He also has pretty good size. He's 6'1", 205. He's a solid receiver. I think he'd be an even cheaper option. You could maybe get him for like $5 million a year, and he's young at 25 years old, so the intrigue is definitely there. While both DeMarcus Robinson and brashaad Perryman are my favorite options outside of Robbie Anderson, my clear-cut favorite response Joe Douglas can do is re-sign Robbie Anderson and then take a wide receiver in the 2nd round. I am against taking a wide receiver in the 1st round because I still think you need to draft your left tackle of the future. But if you go into next year with Robbie Anderson, a 2nd round wide receiver, and keep in mind this is a deep wide receiver class. There are guys who are going to be there in the 2nd round who would be 1st rounders in almost any other year. Quincy Enunwa, if he's healthy, knock on wood, and Jamison Crowder, with guys like Le'Veon Bell who can receive out of the backfield, and Chris Herndon and Robert Griffin, I think you have a decent target share going around, and I think you have some nice weapons for Sam Darnold to work with. Is it a perfect offense? Absolutely not, but I definitely think that is more than capable, and the excuses for Adam Gase should go out the window with the improved offensive line, bringing Robbie back, and drafting a wide receiver in the second round. So far, I like what Joe Douglas has done. I think he has to do a little bit more, though, and wide receiver is definitely one of those positions. Let me know what you think in the comments down below, or get at me on social media. Thank you so much for tuning in today. I'm Matt O'Leary. Talk to you next time.